Hi, everyone. I am so pumped for this live stream. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Kyler Cheatham. I'll be your host here. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Christy Barber from Christy Barber Consulting. And I am so excited to bring you March Madness ERP small to medium sized business extravaganza. So today we're going to do something that's a little bit fun and do some rapid fire software comparisons when it comes to the SMB marketplace. And I'm just here to kind of facilitate our bracket. Hopefully you've seen it. I'll show it to you in just a second. So this will be the first round. And next week we will go into the second round of March Madness and ultimately crown a champion. But before we get into that, I want to give Christy, who's really the expert here, the chance to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about Christy Barber Consulting, and then we will get into it.
Awesome. Thanks. So I'm Christy with Christy Barber Consulting. I am a financial tech expert. So kind of marrying along the lines of technology and finance, because why wouldn't that be more fun? As we always say, numbers and then technology to help understand what those numbers are. So I'm excited to meet with you all today and tell you all the things technology as we make our own tech bracket.
Very cool. So let's do this. So before I show you the bracket, we've got a bunch of different systems that we're going on to what we're going to be covering today. But you are as much a part of this as we are. So we can see your comments wherever you're commenting or viewing today. And we encourage you to kind of join the conversation. The point of doing something fun like this, Christy and I are both not provider specific. So we have that lens of, being able to understand that every software system, every company is different. It has to be a partnership, it has to be a match. So having these types of conversations of what you want to look at is actually going to be very helpful. So we encourage you, if you disagree, that's cool. Drop that in the comments too. It's all about making sure that we have a transparent conversation. So with that, I'm going to show you guys the bracket just real quickly so you can kind of see it. It was on our LinkedIn Live, but you should be able to see what that looks like. And this bracket specifically shows kind of the rapid fire comparisons that we'll be doing today. So we have our first rounds are going to be NetSuite versus Magento, Acumatica versus Shopify, Sage versus IFS, QuickBooks versus Xero, SAP Business One versus Workday, Microsoft D365 versus UKG, Odoo versus Infor, and last but certainly not least, Epicor versus Cispro. So our goal, loose word, right, is to spend 2 minutes per each one of these comparisons and kind of move the next one to the next round, the winner of what that would be. Again, today we're focusing on small to medium sized business. So before we kind of get started, Christy, can you define what a small to medium sized business would be as far as just kind of like a company profile?
Yeah, so small and medium-sized business, I mean, there's a couple different things that come with it that are unique to the industry. And that's one thing I think to say before we jump into all of this.
Mhm.
Each company, you are unique in the industry that you're in, and some of these softwares will be for you, others will be not the right fit. And when we look at size, small businesses usually around up to 50 million, sometimes
Mhm.
100 million, depending where you are. In the medium, to me, what I see them mostly about 150 million, and then you kind of get categorized into you're a little bit larger organization, into more of we'll call it a high medium size business. But the SMB world, I would say 150 under.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, that sounds good. So let's get into it. And again, we're just, experimenting with this format. So definitely let us know what you think of it. But the first one we're going to do, I'm going to set my watch for 2 minutes and we are going to do NetSuite versus Magento. So NetSuite, just to give you kind of a comprehensive comparison, is an old OG, I call it, cloud-based ERP solution, and it looks at things like financial management, CRM, e-commerce, all of those different things. And it's really an ideal solution for your first ERP solution, especially if you're moving from a QuickBooks. Any thoughts on kind of the overview of NetSuite before I go to Magento?
I think with NetSuite, something that's really great is it's the cloud based. It's really easy when you get on to the solution. It looks just like a web page. You're scrolling up and down. The financials in it are great because that's what they started out as. And it grows with you as a best of breed model. And it's not the all in one. So you can customize it as much or as little as you wish.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important, the scalability, especially for this type of business, because you really don't know, where you're going to scale. NetSuite is owned by Oracle. So obviously it's a very sophisticated and proficient platform that it's utilizing. So with that, let's kind of talk, which this comparison is quite opposite. Some of them are like, oh, this is gonna be really hard. There,
Yeah.
this one is quite opposite. So Magento, which you know much better than I do, Christy, but from my understanding, it's an open source kind of e-commerce based system that has these capabilities through kind of extensions, and it really focuses a lot on retail, right? If you are selling something online, and it kind of integrates with a lot of different ERP features, but might not be kind of a full suite that NetSuite is.
Exactly. Magento, which was purchased by Adobe Commerce. They're now known as Adobe Commerce, but everybody still knows them as Magento because that's what they've been. And they're a highly customized e-commerce solution as compared to some of the others that we'll talk through in the next few minutes here. But it does allow you to make a more comprehensive e-commerce solution. It's much more expensive because of that. There's a lot of development work that has to go into it, but you can make a lot of B2B sites. You can make B2C, you can make B2B to C, a whole bunch of
Mhm.
different options with that, which are really cool when you have an e-commerce solution that it doesn't just cater to one type of e-commerce business. They can work with everything under the sun that you may have.
Absolutely. And I think the things that we focus in on a lot are the key differences. We look at integration, like how does that work, especially in an SMB environment where integrations can be very complex. They sound like they're plug and play, but a lot of times that they're not. So Magento, from my understanding, Christy, is that it requires a lot of kind of third party plugins if you're looking for that type of comprehensive integration.
Yes.
Um, and then we also look at things like user experience, which NetSuite obviously has a really great user experience, but Magento is very versatile when it comes to that. But it will, because of the open source feature, a lot of times open source gives us that flexibility, but we think it costs less, but a lot of times to
It's more.
maintain it, yeah, it can be more operationally because you have to think of that total cost of ownership. So with 3 seconds left, um, which one is the winner here, Christy, Magento, or NetSuite?
I think we would have to go NetSuite just because we're kind of kicking things off and we need an ERP to start.